Have you ever driven through the night? When the whole world is asleep, and only the sound of tires rolling on a cold, empty road remains. That's when stories no one believes in suddenly become real. In the world of long-haul truckers, where coffee replaces meals, the driver's seat becomes a bed, and the journey has no clear end, strange things quietly happen. No blatant ghosts, no horror movie jump scares. Sometimes it's just a shadow, a voice calling your name, or a glance in the rearview mirror, and even the toughest drivers feel a chill down their spine. And the story you're about to hear is one of those nights. A sleepless night, a shadowy figure no one could name, a memory impossible to forget. My name is Tung. I'm a container truck driver with over 15 years driving across Vietnam, north to south. If you asked me what I remember most in all those years behind the wheel, it's not the near accidents or the countless late-night deliveries, but that one fateful night at an abandoned gas station 6 years ago. That day, I was hauling a container of dry goods from Hai Phong to Saigon. When I reached Binh Thuan, my truck started acting up. The engine temperature light began flashing continuously. It was just past 2 a.m. The road was completely deserted. Not a soul in sight. I pulled over to an empty patch of land by the roadside, right next to an old, run-down gas station. The sign was broken, weeds overgrown. It hadn't been used in years, but the ground looked flat enough to safely stop and check the truck. I turned off the engine and stepped out. The night wind was icy cold. My flashlight cut through clouds of dust. I was fumbling with the hood when I heard footsteps crunching behind me. I turned, no one there. I brushed it off, thinking I was just tired. A few minutes later, just as I was about to climb back into the cab, I suddenly heard a knock, knock, coming clearly from the passenger side door. I jumped, looked through the window, no one. But strangely, the glass was fogged up, as if someone had just breathed on it, even though it wasn't that cold. I walked closer and shone my light. Still no one, but there was a small, muddy handprint clearly pressed on the passenger window. A chill ran down my spine. I climbed in, locked the doors, turned on the cabin light, and sat frozen. I was debating whether to keep driving when knock came again. This time, from the driver's side, 2 clear knocks, then silence. I didn't dare step out again. I just gripped the wheel tightly and whispered, "Namo Amitabha Buddha, if this is a spirit, please forgive me. I'm just trying to make a living." I don't remember when I drifted off. By the time I woke up, the sun was high and shining straight through the windshield. I startled awake. What was strange was, the truck was spotless. Not a trace of dirt. The foggy window? Gone. The little handprint? Gone. I quickly started the engine, and to my surprise, the truck ran smoothly, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. As I drove past that stretch of road, I asked a local about that gas station. They said it had caught fire years ago due to a gas leak. A mother and her child died in the blaze, and since then, no one dares stop there at night. From that day on, I never joked about the spirit world again. On every long haul, I always bring incense, snacks, and fruit to offer respectfully along the road. Because now I believe, not everyone asking for a ride is among the living. Hung had been Tung's best buddy since their days in vocational driving school. Unlike Tung, Hung was impulsive, fast-paced, loud-mouthed, swore a lot, but he had a big heart. Loyal to a fault, always ready to help his friends, never letting anyone get the short end of the stick. He'd been driving a semi-truck up and down the north-south route for 7 years. Knew every slope, every curve, every roadside diner with flirty Mekong Delta girls, and which rest stops were notorious for fuel tank theft. He might seem carefree, but his head was sharp. He knew how to calculate, how to give way, not the reckless type at all. That night, he was assigned a haul of rolled steel from Binh Duong to Tay Ninh. The load was heavy and prone to shifting if braked too hard. Hung carefully strapped down each coil, double-checked the hooks, then finally climbed into the cab. The clock showed just before 11 p.m. The eastern night was silent, filled only with the smell of dust and the constant chirping of crickets on both sides of the road. National Highway 22B, cutting through Bin Long, was known among truckers for its late-night traffic trying to avoid way stations, quiet, empty, and eerie as the night deepened. Hung was cruising along when he neared a three-way intersection with an abandoned gas station. The drivers called it Bin Long Junction. There used to be a fatal accident there. Some say a container truck lost its brakes and killed 3 people. Hung had heard whispers, but he'd never seen anything strange. He played soft bolero tunes, rested one arm on the steering wheel, chewed on dried beef, half asleep, half awake. Suddenly, the CB radio crackled, then came clicking noises like someone was tuning in. Hung frowned and reached to lower the volume, thinking someone nearby had crossed frequencies. But right then, he spotted a driver ahead, waving by the roadside next to a small truck with its hazard lights blinking. Hung eased off the gas, pulled over, and rolled down the window. "What's up, man? Truck broke down?" The guy wore a faded t-shirt and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He pointed to the rear of his truck. "My brake pads are leaking air. I'm scared the truck might roll downhill. Can I borrow a wheel chalk?" Hung reached for the chalk and stepped down to hand it over personally. "Be careful, man. There was a runaway truck crash here before. Gives me the chills." The guy chuckled. "Yeah, I heard about it. Even if you don't believe, it's better to be safe." Hung nodded, turned around, and headed back, but as he climbed into the cab, he froze. In the rearview mirror, the truck was gone, so was the driver. He panicked, rushed back to the exact spot where he had just handed over the chalk. Nothing. Flat dirt, no tire tracks, no one. Hung's heart pounded. He spun around a few times, mumbling, "Dear God, I swear, don't tell me." He sprinted back, slammed the door shut, locked all 3 levels, and floored the gas. As he climbed the Bin Long hill, the truck suddenly felt unbearably heavy, like something was weighing it down. The engine groaned, the accelerator struggled. Hung clenched his teeth, floored the pedal, and yelled, "I'm not giving anyone a ride. Get off my truck." Suddenly, the truck jolted, like something had just dropped off the trailer. Hung didn't dare stop. Only when he reached a rest area near the border did he get out to check. The trailer was empty, but the wheel chalk, the one he'd handed over, was sitting dead center in the trailer bed, stained with a streak of dark red mud, thick like dried blood. That night, Hung couldn't sleep. He didn't tell anyone, just called Tongue and said one sentence. "Hey, you won't believe this, but I just saw the thing we always joked about, and it's real." On the other end, Tongue stayed silent, then finally replied, "Yeah, I believe you. Ever since that night at the old gas station, I believe everything." From that day on, whenever he had to drive at night, Hung kept a bundle of incense in his cab. Every now and then, he'd stop by the roadside, light a stick, and murmur, "If anyone needs a ride, go ahead, just don't scare me, I've got a weak heart." He still drove, still cursed, still joked around, but he never, ever stopped at Bin Long Junction again. That night, Tongue had to pick up an emergency trip, hauling cargo from Bin Duong to Cat Lai Port, but he arrived too early, and the pickup order for the container wasn't ready yet, so he decided to stop at a rental parking lot in District 9 to get some rest. The lot was tucked inside a wide alley, with gravel spread over the ground. A few dim yellow lights hung weakly overhead. Nearby stood a makeshift guard shack built from corrugated metal, hot like an oven inside. Tongue backed his truck into a spot near the fence, stopped just short of hitting it, then turned off the engine. The night breeze blew dust and sand against the windshield. Outside, trucks came and went with clanking sounds, while some drivers lounged on foldable chairs, playing cards and chatting loudly. But by late night, The noise faded, leaving only the hum of an old electric fan spinning slowly in the distance. Tung reclined his seat, pulled the curtain over the cabin, and crawled into his mosquito net, hoping to catch a bit of sleep. The clock showed 1:45 a.m. Before dozing off, he reached over to lock the doors, glanced at the rearview mirror, and saw a shadow dart past the back of the truck. He figured it was just the security guard on patrol and thought nothing of it. In the middle of the night, there was a soft knock on the cabin door. Knock, knock. Tung bolted upright, barely collecting his thoughts before hearing another knock, this time on the passenger side door. He scrambled up, peeked through the curtain, and saw no one. Before he could say a word, the CB radio crackled with static, followed by strange whispers, then silence. Tung cursed under his breath, irritated. What the hell? Man, can't even sleep in peace? He lay back down, pulled out his phone, and scrolled through a few clips to distract himself from the creeping fear. But just as he turned off the screen and closed his eyes, the cabin light suddenly flicked on. By itself. He was sure he had turned it off earlier. Now his heart started pounding. Tung sat up, switched on every light inside the truck, rolled down the windows, and looked around. No one. But right at that moment, on the passenger side window, there was a faint shadow, like someone was silently staring in from behind the truck. Tung's chest tightened. He backed up into his seat. But when he blinked and looked again, nothing. Cold sweat trickled down the back of his neck. For the first time ever, he felt like his truck cabin was no longer a safe place. The next morning, as he started up the truck and headed out, Tung stopped by the guard post and casually asked, "Hey, uncle, was anyone walking around the lot last night?" The old guard looked up, sighed, and replied, "Guess you haven't heard. That spot where you parked, there used to be a driver who died in his cab. Severe dengue fever. Took days before anyone found him. Since then, people say they hear soft tapping on the glass at night, like someone asking to be let out." Tung said nothing. He drove out of the lot with a heavy heart, like a stone weighing on his chest. That night, he called Hung. "Hey, you still have that extra bundle of incense from the other night? I think it's time we stop laughing about those things we used to joke around about." Hung on the other end let out a dry chuckle. "Damn right, I'm stopping by the temple tonight to pick up a fresh bundle. We each keep one. If one of us ends up far from home and something happens, at least we'll have something to burn. Got it?" That time, Tung took a delivery trip up to Dalat, hauling fresh vegetables from Lam Dong to the Two Duck wholesale market. It was a long road, and the deadline was tight, so he had to drive through the night. The sky was gloomy that day. A light drizzle had been falling ever since he passed Doze intersection. By the time he reached Bảo Lộc Pass, it was already past 10 p.m. His stomach was growling, and his eyelids were heavy. Hung called and said, "Dude, pull into town and get a bowl of pho before you go on. Driving like that, you'll end up in a ravine." Tung just said, "Yeah," to brush him off. A little later, he spotted a warm yellow light shining from a small house on the right. The faded sign read, "Broken rice, plain porridge, coffee." The place stood alone in the middle of a pine forest. Inside, there was only one person, a young woman in a white blouse with her hair neatly tied back. Wiping down the tables, Tung pulled over and quickly stepped inside. "Hey, are you still open?" The woman looked up and smiled softly. "Yes, we are. Would you like rice or porridge?" "I'll take the broken rice. I'm exhausted." She pointed to the table by the window. "Have a seat there. I'll warm up the food. It's been raining non-stop, so it's been quiet." Tung sat down, wiped his face, and glanced around. The place was simple, with old wooden tables. In the back, a small fire burned quietly. The woman brought out a fragrant plate of broken rice with grilled pork ribs, glistening scallion oil, and a bowl of mustard green soup. The smell was strange, unlike anything he'd had at roadside diners. After eating, She poured him a cup of hot tea. "You're headed to Dalat, right? Be careful in the rain up on the pass. A lot of people have had accidents." Tung nodded. "Yeah, I guess you must see a lot from here." "Huh?" She didn't answer, just smiled and walked back into the kitchen. Tung stood up and pulled out his wallet to pay. But she came back out and said, "I'm not charging you tonight. Just a little help for your night drive. Next time you pass by, stop in and support us again." Tung laughed. "No way, miss. I've got my company's allowance. I can't just not pay. Let me at least leave something." But she simply waved her hand and smiled gently. "Better get going. The rain's about to get heavier." Feeling awkward, Tung slipped some money under the edge of his cup and got back in the truck. As he drove away, he kept thinking, "Man, that girl was really sweet." The next morning, after delivering his cargo, Tung headed back toward Saigon. When he reached the foot of the pass, he decided to swing by and say thank you, and to apologize for leaving without a proper goodbye. But after driving up and down the stretch 3 times, he still couldn't find the diner. There was no wooden house, no faded sign. He asked the locals, and they all shook their heads. No diners around here open at night. Who'd sell food in this rain? Tung was stunned. When he looked up at his rearview mirror, he saw the same teacup sitting right there on his dashboard. A white porcelain cup with blue flowers, just like the one from the diner last night. Even though he clearly remembered finishing it, he shivered, said nothing more. That night, stopping at a rest station near Jiaqiam, Tung pulled out the bundle of incense from his bag, stuck a few sticks into an empty coffee can by the roadside, and murmured, "If you're a person, thank you for helping me stay awake. But if you're something else, I hope you find peace soon." Since that night, Tung only ever told one person this story, Hung. After hearing it, Hung patted Tung on the shoulder and chuckled. "Looks like someone's looking out for you. Might be spiritual fate. I'll take you to this monk I know. Get it cleared before you end up being a ghost trucker yourself." That'd be a nightmare. That New Year's Eve, Tung didn't make it home for Tet. He was stuck with a last-minute delivery from Cat Lai Port to a warehouse in Tan Dao. Forced to drive through the night of the 30th, just as everyone else was gathering with family. At 11 p.m., the streets of Saigon were eerily quiet. The once bustling roads now glowed faintly under yellow streetlights. Tung sat in his truck cabin, one hand on the wheel, the other cracking sunflower seeds, chewing absent-mindedly to kill the silence. The radio played a TED music program, the host's slow, sleepy voice almost like a lullaby. At that point, there was only one stretch left, crossing Phu Mai Bridge. Once over, he'd reach the transfer lot, drop off the cargo, and sleep till morning. Halfway up the bridge, Tung suddenly froze. On the right shoulder, about 10 meters ahead, stood a girl, wearing a white ao dai, a conical hat on her head, holding what looked like a bouquet of fabric flowers. She was standing still, face tilted up to the sky, as if waiting for someone. Tung blinked in surprise, then chuckled. Cosplaying on a bridge on New Year's Eve? Filming TikTok or something? But the closer he got, the stranger it felt. From the moment he spotted her to the moment his truck passed beside her. The girl didn't move an inch, didn't turn, didn't flinch, frozen like a statue. As he passed, curiosity got the better of him. He glanced in the rearview mirror, nothing. He turned around to check, completely empty. And that section of the bridge had no path down, no railing gap, nowhere to hide. His heart raced, his palms began to sweat. He turned the radio up full blast and shouted into the cabin, just to shake off the fear. "Geez, I must be starving, seeing things now." After the delivery, Tung stopped at a rest station and grabbed a cup of instant noodles. There he ran into Uncle Tu, an old driver known for staying up late to watch football. Tung casually mentioned, "Hey, earlier when I crossed Phu Mai Bridge, I saw this girl in a white ao dai standing alone. But when I looked back, she was gone. You ever heard of that?" Uncle Tu looked up, his face suddenly serious. Oh, old drivers talk about that all the time. They say there was once a girl who waited for her lover. A soldier, right in the middle of that bridge. Waited and waited, but he never came, so she jumped into the river. Since then, every New Year's Eve, people claim to see her, standing there in white, holding flowers. Tung's throat tightened. I thought it was just a Ted ghost story to add some holiday spice. Uncle Tu nodded slowly. Well, those who believe will avoid her. Those who don't, they'll still see her. And once you've seen her, best offer a cup of water. Keeps the road smooth. That night, Tung didn't return to the lot. Instead, he stopped by a small temple at the corner of Pham the Heen Street. He lit 3 sticks of incense. He wasn't sure if he was scared or sad. All he knew was, ever since then, every Tet when he drove over Phu Mai Bridge, he'd ease off the gas, press both hands gently to the wheel, and whisper, "If you still remember the one you waited for, please don't be sad. Don't follow anyone else. Let them be at peace." That trip, Hung took a contract from his old company, hauling cement up to Dong Zoi in Bin Phuoc. It was during the dry season, when the northern winds blew hard and the air was bone dry. With dust floating like smoke across the road, the truck was heavy, and he had to detour through Highway 14B because Highway 13 was under repair. The detour was longer, but had fewer way stations. Drivers called it the sneaky road. Hung didn't feel like arguing, so he just kept his head down and drove. As the truck climbed a tall hill, reaching a bend near a rubber forest, Hung spotted an old tunnel on the right. It was small, built during the French colonial era. Pitch black inside. Both ends were partially blocked with rusted wire and an old metal sign. People used to take a shortcut through it, but now it was abandoned. Hung was just about to push up the slope when his CB radio suddenly hissed with static. No one spoke. Only the sound of a deep, heavy sigh echoed through. Thinking it was interference, Hung turned the CB off and kept going. But right as he passed the mouth of the tunnel, a faint voice drifted into the cabin. Hung oi? A woman's voice, raspy, right next to his ear. Hung's hair stood on end. He looked around, no one. He slammed the brakes, stopped halfway up the slope, and yanked out his phone to call Tung. "Hey, man, don't laugh at me. Okay? I just heard someone calling my name, at that little tunnel between Bin Long and Dong Zoi. I swear, clear as day." There was a pause on the other end. Then Tung asked, "Did she really say, Hung? Woman's voice? Raspy?" "Yeah, why? What's up?" Tung answered slowly. "Last year I drove that stretch with Thao, my buddy. He heard the exact same thing. A few days later, he had a brake failure on the hill and crashed. Drivers in Bin Phuoc say that tunnel. A woman once set herself on fire there, holding her baby. Her husband had left her. Ever since, if someone passing by has the same name, or looks like him, she follows them." Hung clenched his jaw. "Damn it, I'm Nguyen. Not whoever that guy was." "Why me?" Tung chuckled. "Probably not the name. Maybe you look like him. Just bad luck, bro. Anyway, there's a temple near the Tan Lap gas station. Pull over, light an incense stick. Do it quick. Don't hang around that place too long." Hung did exactly that. He stopped at the temple, bought a bundle of incense, and mumbled a prayer. "I don't know you, and you don't know me. If I somehow offended you, I'm sorry. I'm just a hired driver. No bad intentions." After that trip, Hung dropped the Bin Phuoc route completely. Even though the pay was better, he refused. "I'd rather drive longer than wake up in a cold sweat hearing someone call my name, that kind of sweet, spine-chilling voice. I'm not built for that." Ever since, whenever someone mentioned the little tunnel near Bin Long, Hung would pretend his signal cut out. Not because he was afraid, but because he understood. Some places, you're meant to pass through, not to ask questions. Back when he first started working for the timber company in Bien Hoa, Tung was assigned a shipment of red balau planks from Gia Lai to the warehouse. The wood was heavy, long, stacked high like a wall behind the cabin. Because he was late picking up the load, he had to drive through the night to make the deadline. The company also sent along a young guy named Kwong to keep an eye on the cargo in case anything went wrong. Kwong was in his early 20s, small, wiry, and always cracking jokes. As soon as he climbed into the truck, he brought along 3 bulky bags filled with stuff like fish sauce, dried deer meat, and mambo hawk. The whole cabin instantly reeked. Tung groaned. "Good grief, am I hauling lumber or a wet market?" Kwong replied, totally unfazed. "You need a little smell to stay awake. Bro, we've got hundreds of kilometers to go. You wanna die on the wheel?" Tung gave up arguing and kept driving through the night. By the time they reached the Da Pass, it was late. Fog blanketed the road, thick and heavy. Suddenly, Kwong went silent, curled up hugging his knees. Staring straight ahead, Tung glanced over and asked, "What's wrong? Out of jokes already?" Kwong whispered, "Don't look in the center mirror. Okay? I'm begging you, don't look." Tung laughed out loud. "What the hell's wrong with you? You sound like a horror movie." "I'm serious. I saw someone sitting on the lumber. Long hair, head down, not moving. I saw her, clear as day." A chill shot down Tung's spine. Still, being the stubborn type, he sneaked a glance at the rearview mirror. At first, there was only darkness, but in a blink, he saw a faint shadow sitting on the wood. No face, just a figure cross-legged, hair hanging down, completely still. Tung panicked, hands slipping off the wheel. He nearly rammed into a milestone post. Kwong shouted, "I told you not to look. Why'd you look?" Tung was gasping, heart racing, slowing the truck as he mumbled, "Damn it, tonight, I might just abandon this haul." After passing the final curve, Tung pulled into a roadside gas station. Kwong didn't dare get out, just sat there. Trembling, Tung stepped down, opened the back to check. The wood was still in place. But strangely, on the center plank, were 2 streaks of mud, like footprints from someone squatting there, clear as day. Tung said nothing. He climbed back into the cab, grabbed a shirt, and draped it over the rearview mirror. Not a word was exchanged for the rest of the night. When they reached the warehouse at dawn, Kwong clasped his hands and said, flustered, "I'm sorry. It was my first time seeing something like that. I thought I was hallucinating." Tung patted his shoulder. "You're not crazy. I've seen it too. First time I hauled timber. I saw the same thing. Didn't tell anyone either. Forest wood has spirits. Best to stay quiet on the road." Ever since then, Tung tied a red cloth over the rearview mirror whenever he hauled lumber. Not to ward off spirits, but to avoid seeing them. Because he knew, some things, once seen, stay with you forever. That night, Hung was hauling a shipment from Vung Tau to Bien Hoa. Due to a delay in picking up the container, he missed the original schedule. Instead of heading back to the yard to wait, he decided to stop at the familiar Long Ton rest stop to catch some sleep and continue early in the morning. It was the same old place he knew for years, those worn-out stone benches, the almond tree near the restroom, and a line of parked trucks, each one carrying its own load, its own driver, its own story. Hung found a spot near the edge, beneath a dim yellow street lamp. He pulled the curtain, reclined the seat, and crawled under his blanket. The clock read 1:23 a.m. He hadn't slept for long when he started to dream. In the dream, he was still lying in the cabin, but the door was wide open. Outside stood a little boy, around 4 or 5 years old, wearing a red shirt, barefoot, his face smudged with dirt. Staring directly at him, Hung sat up in the dream and asked, "Whose kid are you? What are you doing here this late?" The boy didn't answer. He just raised his hand and gently knocked on the doorframe. Knock, knock, knock. Hung jolted awake. His back was drenched in sweat. He looked around. The door was locked. The curtain still drawn, but his chest felt heavy, like something was sitting on him. He exhaled and tried to go back to sleep. But the next night, on the return trip, he stopped again at Long Ton. and the same dream returned. The same boy, the same wide eyes, the same little hand tapping the door, and this time, the boy moved his lips. "Uncle, please let me in." Hung woke up, heart pounding, too shaken to stay another minute. He started the engine and drove straight to Bien Hoa, ignoring the crushing fatigue. The next morning, he stopped at a roadside coffee shop he often visited. The moment he sat down, he asked the woman behind the counter, "Hey sis, has anything strange ever happened at Long Ton Rest Stop? I've had the exact same dream 2 nights in a row." She poured him a glass of water, gave him a look, then answered, "Guess you haven't heard? Years ago, a truck was parked there. The driver fell asleep, and the truck rolled backward, crushed a little boy who was sleeping underneath. His parents sold lottery tickets nearby, and the kids snuck under the truck to escape the heat. Since then, drivers say they dream of a child, asking to come inside and sleep." Hung's face went pale. "My God, hasn't anyone done a prayer or something?" She shook her head. "They did, but maybe he's still not at peace. Strangers who sleep there almost always get a visit." Hung went home and told Tung everything. Tung didn't laugh. He just handed him a small folded paper with a few prayer lines written on it. "Next time you stop there, light an incense stick. Say these words. Don't ask questions. Don't call out. Don't stare. Just do it, and go." Hung tucked the paper into his wallet. And from then on, every time he passed through Long Ton Rest Stop, he kept a small bundle of incense in his bag. Not because he was superstitious, but because he understood. Some small spirits only needed gentle word to find peace. That time, Tung was driving a route from Tay Ninh to Trang Bom. The cargo was light, and he was in a hurry, so he opted for a shortcut. A buddy from the same depot told him about an old road that cut through an abandoned industrial park. It used to be a main road, but now it was run down. They banned trucks there at night due to safety risks, but some drivers still snuck through to avoid the long way. Tung hesitated. "Hey, isn't that the road where people say weird stuff happens?" His friend waved it off. "Just rumors. I take it all the time. Nothing's ever happened. You're driving solo. Your truck's light. It'll be quick. Just remember, don't stop. Don't roll down the window. And whatever you do, don't look in the rearview mirror unless you absolutely have to." Tung felt a chill up his spine but was too tempted by speed to resist. Around 2 a.m., he turned onto the desolate road. Tall wild grass rose above his head on both sides. Abandoned factories loomed cold and silent. Some streetlights flickered, some were completely out, and the wind howled in his ears. He drove slowly. The headlights cut through the darkness, revealing only floating dust. His chest tightened, but on the outside, he tried to keep calm, mumbling to himself, "There's nothing here, no one here, just an old road, just an old road." Suddenly, the radio crackled, then went dead. Then, the passenger side window began to fog up, like someone had just breathed on it. A shadow darted by, faint but fast, as if someone had run along the edge of the road. Tung gripped the steering wheel tightly, eyes forward, refusing to turn his head. He kept driving straight, not slowing down once. Only when he merged back onto National Highway 1, where the lights were bright and the traffic more crowded, did he finally exhale. Once he reached the depot, as usual, he stepped out to check the cargo. The wind still blew. The moon was high, but something strange caught his eye. The tires, despite just crossing a dusty, dirt-filled road, were spotless, like freshly washed. No mud, no tire tracks, as if the truck had never been there. He told the story to Uncle Locke, the oldest driver in the yard. A man who once survived a truck rollover in Lam Dong. "Uncle, has it ever happened to you? A truck that leaves no tire tracks?" Uncle Locke furrowed his brow and nodded slowly. "Yes, roads like that, they call shadow roads. Places where too many accidents happened, and the souls haven't moved on. They become paths for the ones from the other side. If someone drives through at the wrong time, the truck can get held by spirits. and the tires leave no trace, like it never existed. Tongue shivered. Is there any way to avoid it? Uncle Locke smiled gently. There is. Don't take those roads. Or if you must, always keep a bundle of incense in the cab. If you feel a chill down your spine, pull over and light it. Not to ask for anything, but just to say, I'm only passing through. No harm meant. Please let me go in peace. Since then, Tongue never took shortcuts again. No matter how fast or slow. He chose the crowded roads, the ones with lights, signs, people, because he knew. Some roads may seem shorter, but they only stretch the fear longer, into something no words can explain. That trip, Hung was driving the Can-Tho-Saigon route, hauling frozen seafood. He preferred night runs, cooler and quieter. The later it got, the lonelier the road through Vinh Long became, with only a few overnight buses and a couple of silent container trucks rumbling along. Around 3 a.m., as he neared the turnoff toward My Thuan Bridge, he suddenly saw a familiar semi-truck up ahead. Bright red taillights, tall frame, sealed trailer, cruising steadily in front. Hung squinted. Yes, that was Dat's truck, his old friend. They used to work the same depot. One of the right taillights was cracked. That was Dat's signature. No other truck had it. Hung lit up, honked, and flashed his high beams. Hey Dat, wait up, man. The truck didn't respond, just kept rolling, same pace. Hung stepped on the gas, trying to catch up, mumbling. This guy, acting like he doesn't know me. What's with the cold shoulder in the middle of the night? Just before the bridge, Hung's truck slowed down for the incline. The one in front did too. But once they cleared the bridge, it suddenly vanished, no trace, no sign. At the next intersection, Hung pulled into a gas station to rest and planned to call Dat for a playful scolding. As soon as he opened his phone, a message popped up in the drivers group chat. Deepest condolences to the family of driver Dat, passed away in an accident on the way to Ben Tre. Funeral tomorrow morning. Hung sat frozen, heat rushed to his face. Heart pounding. His hand trembled as he called Tongue. Hey, I swear, I just saw Dat's truck right in front of me. Same taillight, it was him? I saw it. Tongue was silent for a long moment. Then quietly said, maybe he just came back to see us one last time. Hung sat still in the cabin, mind replaying all those late-night hauls with Dat, sharing a loaf of bread, a hot coffee in the cold. That last ride, none of them knew it would be goodbye. The next day, Hung didn't take a run. Instead, he drove to Dat's house, lit a stick of incense, and stood quietly outside the gate, staring at the memorial photo. It was Dat's bright smile in the frame. His eyes were exactly like the ones Hung had seen through the rearview mirror the night before. From that day on, Hung changed out his taillights, not because he was scared, but because he couldn't bear to see that same warm red glow again, afraid it would squeeze his heart the way it did that night. He later told Tongue, voice hoarse, you know what, this job isn't scary because of the long hours or sleepless nights. It's scary because the people who used to ride with us are now truly gone, and we still think they're just up ahead. In this line of work, there are lessons no one teaches. Only when you've lived them do you understand. Night driving doesn't just require sharp eyes or steady hands, it demands a clear, grounded heart, because sometimes, the roads we think we know, just need one strange night to send a chill down even the most seasoned spine. Some people choose not to believe. Some stay silent. But people like Tongue and Hung, they choose to remember. Not to scare others, but to remind themselves that long hauls aren't just about moving through darkness, they're about keeping your own light intact. As for these trucker ghost stories, in the end, they're never as frightening as the ones who drive out and never come back. Thank you for listening to this journey. And if one night, you're out driving, and the wind feels just a little too cold, then remember, don't check the mirror. Just keep driving, don't ask, don't turn around,